Now then, a third runway at Heathrow Airport has been on the cards for nearly 10 years, indeed more than that. In that time, though, it's been approved, then cancelled, and then recommended again. Well, it's thought that the Prime Minister will finally endorse the project this week, perhaps, despite warnings that up to 60 Conservative MPs could rebel against the decision. Well, it'll be the latest in a string of big, controversial infrastructure projects after the green light was given to the nuclear plant Hinkley Point C and the high-speed rail line HS2. Well, I'm joined now by Sir John Armitt, the President of the Institution of Civil Engineers. Very good morning to you, Sir John.
Morning.
Everyone's just saying, right, the Davis Commissioner said it's Heathrow. Can we just rubber stamp Heathrow and get on with it? Is that your view?
Well, it is, but having been a member of the Davis Commission, I guess, yes, I've always, since that time, been in favour of Heathrow, and it was put across to the government as a recommendation, and clearly we've been waiting over a year now for government to pick up that recommendation.
But as you found on the Commission, as you sat there and made your deliberations time and time again, it seems to be falling foul of political considerations, not economic ones.
Well, at the end of the day, big infrastructure is bound to have a strong political flavour. And our objective at the institution is to try and ensure that government gets the best possible advice, trawling around, getting people's views, taking technical advice, economic advice, and then putting to ministers, look, this is what we think is the right approach. But the final decisions, particularly on things like Hinkley, as we've seen, and HS2 and Heathrow, politicians make the final decision.
But what about having something like an independent infrastructure body who identifies the needs, the long-term needs of the United Kingdom in so many of these areas, and then it makes the decision, a bit like the Bank of England, something like that, independence?
Well, my own review 2 or 3 years ago recommended an independent infrastructure commission. We now have one, which has started work already and is moving ahead. But when we took, again, views of people as to what that commission should do, the view was very clearly that at the end of the day, it shouldn't be a decision-making body. It should be a recommending body, because at the end of the day, infrastructure affects so many people. Everybody wants to have a say. There are difficult decisions to be made, and at the end of the day, the politicians clearly, I think rightly, believe that they should make those final decisions.
Are there parallels with the Olympics? I know you were on the chair of the Olympic Delivery Authority, and everyone looks at that, came in early, under budget. Was it the fact that there was a deadline? The 2012 Olympics were happening in 2012, and that we got on and did it. This runway decision seems to have been going on, I mentioned 10 years, well, 30 or 40 years.
Well, firstly, the deadline's enormously helpful. You've got to do it, so you've got to get there on time. The other great thing about the Olympics, though, was that there was a cross-party support that this was something that Britain was going to do. Britain was going to do well, and whichever party was in power, and we had different mayors in power, different governments in power during that period, they all supported the end result, which for those doing it is enormously supportive and helpful. And the idea of an infrastructure commission, from my perspective, has always been that this should be able to make recommendations which then get taken forward to government, get debated and considered in the House. So again, you're trying to get as much cross-party support, so you don't get this flip-flopping backwards and forwards between, let alone between different political parties, but even between different ministers within the same government.
There's another dimension, isn't there, I want to talk to you about, and it concerns Brexit and the Olympics. As you saw, there was an estimated 80,000 people or so worked on that, delivering that on time, as I say, and under budget. But it was thought 30 to 40% of them were foreign nationals, many of them from the European Union. With these big projects, the HS2s and the runways and whatever else, we are told now we want to obviously employ more British people to do those jobs. Will we have the skills necessary amongst the British population? And if we're training people up, will that happen in time?
I think it's a major challenge. If you're in London in the construction sector, then probably 50% of the labour and engineers, a lot of the engineers in London are from Spain and Portugal and Germany, but overall, about 50% of the labour on construction projects in London is from outside of the UK and primarily from Europe. Across the country as a whole, it's only about 12%. But yes, it's going to be a major challenge. And if you look at the UK's unemployment rate, which is low, and you say, well, where are these other people going to come from? that there aren't going to be sufficient. Yes, we should do more to train local people, and we should do more to encourage young people coming out of school that university isn't the only option, that in fact there are really good careers through apprenticeships, and get people into the construction sector through that route. And we all have a responsibility to drive that forward. But I think equally we need to retain open borders for the skills that this country needs in the future.
So, I mean, are you worried that this government gets over-obsessed by absolute numbers and doesn't let those skilled people in the future in time to deliver these projects at the right time, at the right price?
Yes, that is a risk. Clearly the government needs to, and one recognises that the Brexit decision is one which has concerns about immigration, but we should not let that concern stop us from being open to the skills that this country is going to need in the future, whether it's skills in our universities, whether it's openness to students wanting to come and study at the best universities in the world, or it's people coming wanting to work on our projects. And if we have a shortage of people to fulfil those projects, we have to have open borders for those people to come in.
Sir John, very good to see you. Thank you very much for your time and your thoughts. Sir John Armitt there, the President of the Institution of Civil Engineers. And you're watching